monad of monads, a father of fathers, principle of principles, source of sources, root of roots, good of good things, star of stars, world of worlds, idea of ideas, abyssal beauty, hidden seed, father of aeons, father of the hidden intelligible worlds, from where immortal breeze having poured was filled from the masses of bodies. They already kindle the second universe. I am singing a hymn to you, O Blessed One with voice, and I am singing hymn to you of the silence as well, O Blessed One. For so much as you hear the voice, as much do you hear the silence of intellect. Thus concludes a portion of the second hymn derived from the 10 hymns of Synesius, the magnum opus of the Christian and Neoplatonist bishop of Turin, dated to roughly 410 AD. This figure of antiquity resides in a transitional period between the burgeoning Christian expansion and the wavering classical world. It's very interesting to read the hymns, as they provide a wonderfully syncretic combination of Christocentrism and Neoplatonic thought. There have been some scholarly debates surrounding the influence this man had on subsequent philosophers and mystics, notably Pseudo-Dionysius, who most assuredly read the hymns of Synesius and adopted his methods and philosophical articulations in order to create his own work, known as the 9 Letters, which allowed for a Christian interpretation of Parmenides' 9 hypotheses. But interestingly enough, there is some evidence indicating that the Neoplatonist Proclus was aware of Synesius' work, although he would have been very cautious about openly admitting he'd read a Christian bishop's works. It may very well have been the case. Although no definitive evidence of this has emerged, the suggestions seem to make this a highly plausible theory. The reason why Synesius' hymns would concern us is that they themselves are expressions of the mode of ascension to the monad, or God. In essence, hymns are vessels of theurgy. Proclus himself explicitly differentiates between 3 types of theurgy. The first are theurgy of elements in the material world. For example, stones, gems, animals, plants. The second are theurgy of rituals and rites, and included within these are hymns. The third type of theurgy is known as mystical theurgy, which involve contemplative philosophical exercises conducted by the true mathematikoi, and these don't require any real ritual or rites. So why do we consider Synesius' hymns theurgic? Synesius does not rely or emphasize divine grace that may passively come about and provide for salvation of the person through faith alone. In fact, he highlights the importance of human activity and philosophical activity in reaching kenosis, or unification with God. The divine activity reaches out in response to human philosophical efforts, such efforts that would cleanse and purify the divine image. Of course, these philosophical efforts have very little to do with modern understandings of philosophy. It is also important to mention that as a Christian Neoplatonist, Synesius is not directing the theurgic hymns to the lower gods, but to the ultimate principle of the unknowable God. This makes him very much Christian. Proclus would direct all of his hymns primarily through the levels of ontology, arriving finally at the unknowable God. In analogy to the Platonic anagoge, the hymns of Synesius propel the hymn singer through the various levels of the cosmos, beginning from Tartarus, to be united with Christ and the Trinity. Synesius himself distinguishes between 2 main kinds of ritual. The first are official ceremonies, mysteries, and cults. Examples of these, of course, would be the greater and lesser mysteries of Ulysses. And the second kind of ritual are dreams, in which there are no exclusionary requirements, as it provides the populace with access to the divine through the mediation of what he called the imagination, which was a movement of the soul that allows it to mediate between the earthly realm and the divine realm. This is very interesting to keep in mind, to think about. The soul is a mediator between two different realms, and the imagination, where dreams reside, is that link between those two realms. The hymns act as first principles, which are revealed to the hymn singer, not through intellectual or rational efforts, but by tapping into the archaic roots of poetry and utilizing the function of intuition. After all true poetry is a result of intuition. First principles cannot be comprehended purely in and of themselves, but manifest to the human mind through dreams that present them as images and symbols. For Synesius, understanding the dream, philosophically or in a conscious attitude, provides one with the means to ascend. This is a deeply psychoanalytic technique and very much in line with Jung's work. In fact, in his book Psychology of Types, Jung refers to the hymns of Synesius in the context of his discussion on creativity being a function of the imagination, i.e. the soul, which was referred to by the bishop. We'll have to defer the exploration of Synesius' more famous work, De Insomniis, for now, where he goes into greater detail regarding the prophetic and divinatory power of dreams. But before we close this brief video, I'd like to take a quick detour into Jung's understanding of intuition, so we can at least understand a little bit of how this function seems to operate. Irrational intuition is a component of our psyches. It is the function that mediates perceptions in an unconscious way. Jung distinguished 4 different functions. The first 2 are thinking and feeling, and these are considered rational functions. The latter 2 are irrational. By that word irrational, I follow Jung's terminology as something beyond rationality, not opposed to rationality. These 2 irrational functions are sensation and intuition. Altogether, these 4 functions exist in each human being to a varying degree. But out of necessity to earn a living and provide for ourselves and our families, our best qualities are honed in and differentiated, which is very much encouraged by society. These functions, or at least one of these functions, becomes the dominant function, the one that's most often utilized. Most of us, of course, exhibit various combinations of the 4 basic functions, but at a cost, and this is at the cost of an undifferentiated, inferior function, which tends to remain the least exercised and prone to falling into the unconscious. Once again, this is a problem of the 3 and the 4. The 4th is always that incommensurable addition that cannot be reconciled with the other 3. In the general population, intuition tends to be the least relied upon personality type. It seems to be a deeply rooted type that has close links to the necessity of instinct and survival in hostile environments. Perhaps as we become more comfortable and safer in our artificially constructed cities, our need for intuition remains in an undeveloped state. Synesius and Proclus have demonstrated how theurgic practice applies to hymns and allows for the hymn singer to ascend through all levels of the cosmos to approach the unknowable God. Let us conclude with the final hymn, hymn number 10, entitled Hymn to God. O, the one who is beyond all, for how otherwise should one sing thee? How can the word celebrate thee? For with no word can thou be uttered, thou, the sole ineffable, since thou begettest all that voice can express. How can the mind perceive thee? For with no mind can thou be understood. Thou, the sole unknowable, since thou begettest all that mind can perceive. All that can speak and cannot speak celebrate thee. All that have the intellectual faculty and all that do not honor you. All the common yearnings and all the common travails are about thee. all pray to thee. All those who know thy sign praise you with silent hymn. All remain in thee, and all are sitting next to thee. Thou art the end of all. Thou art one in all, being neither one nor all. Thou with many words, how should I call thee? The only uncallable? What heavenly mind can penetrate thy overshining veils? Be gracious to me, O the one who is beyond all, for how otherwise should one sing thee? Take care for now.